Hello students, in previous part we have seen transportation in animals. Now in this transportation process, the nutrients are transported from one cell to another cell by the means of fluid. Now there are different types of fluid or different kinds of fluid which are involved in the transportation of nutrients. For example, water, blood, lymph and hemolymph. These fluids are involved in the transportation of the nutrients. Now in higher animals, from annelida to chordata, these animals, they have a special fluid which helps in the transportation of the nutrients, and that is the blood. This blood is pumped from the heart to the different tissues through the vessels. Now this flow of the blood from the heart to the tissues and from the tissues again to the heart, this flow of the blood is called as circulation. This circulation is of two types: open circulation and closed circulation. This open circulation, it is seen in the animals like arthropods and mollusks. It is seen in the arthropods or mollusks. In these animals, the blood is not completely enclosed within the vessels. The blood is circulated through the body cavity called as hemocy. Now, while studying the cockroaches, we have seen, suppose this is the body of the cockroach. This is the body of the cockroach, and inside here, suppose there are organs of the cockroach. These are the organs of the cockroach, and whatever the space is left around the organs, this space is the body cavity of the cockroach. Now here in this body cavity there is a fluid which flows. This body cavity is called as hemocy. Now the blood, it is not completely enclosed in the vessels. There are no vessels for the transportation or circulation of the blood. The blood flows openly in the body of the arthropods or mollusks. Now here what happens? The blood is not completely enclosed within the vessels and it is circulated through the body cavity. This hemocy, this cavity which we saw here, that is the hemocy, and the blood is circulated through this body cavity. Exchange of materials takes place between the blood and the cells directly. As there are no blood vessels, so the blood flows openly and it comes in direct contact with the cells of the body or the organs. Now the materials which are to be exchanged, those materials are exchanged with the cells directly. The contact with the cells is directly. The contact of the blood and the cells, it is directly, because there are no blood vessels present in the body. Blood flows with low pressure. Now here, as the cavity is open, there are no blood vessels, so the flow of the pressure of the blood or the flow of the blood is low. The blood flows very slowly through this cavity or this hemocy. So the blood flows with a low pressure. Blood does not contain respiratory pigment like hemoglobin, so it does not transport respiratory gases. Now while studying the gaseous exchange, I told you that in the body of insect, the blood does not have respiratory pigment, right? That's why the blood is colorless. It does not have respiratory pigment. It does not have red corpuscles. So this blood of the insect is colorless because it does not have respiratory pigment. And as it does not have respiratory pigment, it does not help to transport the respiratory gases, that is oxygen and carbon dioxide. It does not transport those respiratory gases. For transport of these respiratory gases, there is separate respiratory system in the blood, in the body of the insect. So the blood of the insect or the blood here does not contain respiratory pigment like hemoglobin. So it does not transport respiratory gases. and the blood is colorless because of absence of red corpuscles. Open system cannot achieve high rates of oxygen transport. Now, as it does not have respiratory pigment, it does not support in transport of the respiratory gases. So, the achievement of high rates of oxygen transport, the high rates of oxygen transport are not achieved by the open circulation or open circulatory system. So, the next is the closed circulatory system. The second type is the closed circulatory system. This type of system is seen in all vertebrates and higher mollusks and annelids. The vertebrates, the mollusks, higher mollusks and the annelids. In all those animals, this closed circulatory system is seen or can be observed. Blood is circulated through a network of blood vessels. Now here in the open circulatory system, we saw that there is no network of blood vessels, whereas in the closed circulatory system, the blood flows in the network of the blood vessels. It has a network of the blood vessels. The blood is circulated within that network. Blood flows within the vessels and do not come in direct contact with the cells and the body tissues. Now here in the closed circulatory system, the blood, as we know, there is a blood vessel network present over here, and the blood, it flows only in the blood vessel network. It does not come in contact, in direct contact with the body tissues or the cells. Whereas in the open circulatory system, we saw the exchange of materials that takes place between the blood and the cells. It takes directly. There is a direct contact in between the blood and the cells in open circulatory system. Whereas in closed circulatory system, there is no direct contact in between the blood and the cells or the body tissues. So, the blood flows within the vessels and does not have a direct contact with the cells or the body tissues. Now, the flow of the blood or the path of the flow of the blood here in the closed circulatory system is it flows from the heart to the artery, through the artery to the arterioles, from the arterioles to the capillaries, and from the capillaries to the venules, from the venules to the veins, and again from the veins to the heart. So this is the path, or this is the path of the blood to flow. Blood flows in this path in the closed circulatory system from the heart to the arteries. Now these blood vessels near the heart, they are thicker and bigger blood vessels. These blood vessels, they divide into arteries. These arteries, they divide into arterioles, narrower arterioles. Arterioles again divide into smaller hair-like structure or small tube-like structure called as capillaries. Capillaries, and then these capillaries these capillaries are attached with the venules. Venules are also just like capillaries. The difference is that venules carry deoxygenated blood and capillaries provide oxygenated blood. So venules are then converted into veins. Veins then join the heart. So from the heart, the oxygenated blood is taken by the arteries to the arteriole, through the arteriole to the capillaries, and these capillaries, they provide the oxygenated blood to the cells and the body tissues. Now when the cells and the body tissues, they use up the oxygenated blood, carbon dioxide is diffused in the blood, and that deoxygenated blood is taken by the venules to the veins, through the veins, and again to the heart, and from the heart it is pumped to the lungs for oxygenation again, and from the lungs it is again pumped to the heart and then to the artery. This cycle continues. So this is the flow of the blood. Exchange of materials through the lymph. Now here the exchange of materials is taken or takes place through the lymph. Lymph is the supporting liquid in the blood, supporting fluid which is there present in the blood. It contains lymphoid cells in it. uh, for example, WBCs. Those are the lymphoid cells. So the lymph, it helps in the exchange of materials. Blood flows with high pressure and contains respiratory pigment for transportation of gases. Now here in the closed circulatory system, the blood, it flows with high pressure, whereas we saw in the open circulatory system, the blood flows with the low pressure, means it flows slowly, whereas in closed circulatory system, the blood flows with a high pressure. Its speed is high, its pressure is high, and it contains respiratory pigment for transportation of gases. Respiratory pigment like hemoglobin is present inside the blood, and this hemoglobin helps in the transportation of respiratory gases, that is oxygen and carbon dioxide. So this is the closed circulatory system. This closed circulation or closed circulatory system is again divided into two types. First is the single circulation and second is double circulation. This single circulation, in this what happens? The blood passes through the heart only once in each cycle. Now, as we know, the blood passes through the heart. Here in single circulation, what happens? The blood passes only one time through the heart in each cycle. In one cycle, only one time it passes through the heart. Now this type of circulation is seen in the fishes. Now in fishes, what happens? From the heart, the deoxygenated blood, that which contains carbon dioxide, the deoxygenated blood is taken to the gills. Here that carbon dioxide is given out, oxygen is taken in. So here the oxygenation of blood takes place in the gills. Now this oxygenated blood is passed or transported to the body parts of the fish, and there that oxygen is used up and carbon dioxide is taken from the parts of the body, and that blood again is transported to the heart. Now here the blood, it transports or it is circulated only one time through the heart. That's why it is called as single circulation. Now here the heart of the fish only carries deoxygenated blood. That's why it is called as venous heart. As we have seen, only the blood which contains carbon dioxide, deoxygenated blood, is transported or is circulated through the heart. Oxygenated blood is not circulated through the heart. That's why this heart is called as venous heart, because it circulates only deoxygenated blood. The second type is double circulation. In this type of circulation, the blood passes through the heart twice in each cycle. In one cycle, the blood passes through the heart 2 times. That's why it is called as the double circulation. Whereas here, the blood only passes 1 time. That's why it is called as single circulation. Now, in this double circulation, the blood passes 2 times through the heart in one cycle. This type of circulation is seen in the birds and mammals. Now, in this circulation, what happens? The heart, it has 4 chambers: right atrium, left atrium, right ventricle and left ventricle. So here the oxygenated blood which is given out from the lungs, the oxygenated blood is transported or circulated through the pulmonary veins. Pulmonary veins bring those blood to the left atrium of the heart. From the left atrium, it is dropped down to the left ventricle. From the left ventricle, it is pumped out through the dorsal aorta. Dorsal aorta to the body organs. This, from the left ventricle, the oxygenated blood is pumped out through the dorsal aorta to the different parts of the body. And here in the different parts of the body, the oxygen is used up. The carbon dioxide which is given by the tissues or the cells is taken by the blood. And that deoxygenated blood is again circulated to the right atrium through the superior and inferior vena cava. So these superior and inferior vena cava, these bring the deoxygenated blood to the right atrium. From right atrium it is dropped to the right ventricle, and from the right ventricle it is pumped out through the pulmonary artery, and it is taken to the lungs for oxygenation. Here in the lungs the carbon dioxide is given and the carbon dioxide is given out, the oxygen is taken in and the blood gets here oxygenated, and again the circulation continues. So here when the oxygenated blood, it is given out from the lungs through the pulmonary veins to the to the left atrium, from the left atrium to the left ventricle, from the left ventricle through the dorsal aorta to the body parts or body organs. This circulation is called as systemic circulation. And when that deoxygenated blood is brought by the superior and inferior vena cava to the right atrium, from the right atrium to the right ventricle, from the right ventricle it is pumped through the pulmonary artery to the lungs. This circulation is called as the pulmonary circulation. So this is the double circulatory system or double circulation. Now this circulation, we have seen circulation is divided into two main types, open circulation and closed circulation. Open circulation can be seen in arthropods and mollusks. In this open circulation, there are no blood vessels present. The blood is circulated through the body cavity, that is called as hemocy, and exchange of the materials takes place directly between the blood and the cells. There is direct contact between the blood and the cells. The blood here in the open circulatory system, open circulation, does not contain respiratory pigment in it, and it does not support the transport of respiratory gases. The blood is colorless because it does not have red corpuscles in it. So in this open circulatory system, the blood is colorless, it does not support the transport of respiratory gases. Whereas in closed circulatory system, this type of circulation is seen in the vertebrates, higher mollusks and annelids. In this system, there is a network of blood vessels through which the blood is transported or blood is circulated throughout the body. Now, here exchange of materials takes place through the blood vessels. The blood and the cells of the body are not in direct contact, and the path of the blood flow is from the heart to the artery, through the artery to the arterioles, from the arterioles to the capillaries, from the capillaries to the venules, from the venules to the veins, and again from the veins to the heart. So this is the circulation, this is the path of circulation of blood. The exchange of materials takes place through the lymph, and the blood here has a respiratory pigment, that is hemoglobin, and this respiratory pigment helps in the transportation of respiratory gases, that is oxygen and carbon dioxide, and it has red corpuscles in it, so the blood is red in color. This closed circulation is further divided into two types, single circulation and double circulation. In single circulation, the blood passes only one time through the heart in each cycle, whereas in double circulation, the blood passes two times through the heart in one cycle. So this is the circulation in animals, blood circulation in animals. Now the functions or the importance or significance of this circulation or circulatory system is it supports the transport of nutrients, waste products, respiratory gases, metabolic intermediates like lactic acid from the muscles to the liver, and transport of hormones. Now this blood, it transports, this circulation, it transports nutrients which are taken inside the body. They are transported from one cell to another cell, or they are circulated by the blood from one cell to another cell in order to carry out metabolic activities, various metabolic activities in the body. And during these metabolic activities, the waste products which are generated, those waste products are removed out. How they are removed out? From the cell, those waste products are transported by the circulatory system to the excretory system, and then they are excreted out of the body or given out of the body. Then respiratory gases are also transported by this circulatory system or circulation or blood. As we know, the blood has respiratory pigment. It helps in the transport of respiratory gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide. Now, metabolic intermediates like lactic acid, they are transported from the muscles to the liver. Now, in anaerobic respiration, we have seen that when the glycolysis of glucose takes place, at that time pyruvic acid is produced. That pyruvic acid is then converted into lactic acid in the muscles, and when that lactic acid accumulates in the muscles, what happens? Muscle fatigue takes place, right? So that shouldn't happen. So for that, what happens? The blood or the circulation or circulatory system helps in transport of that lactic acid from the muscles to the liver. Also, the hormones are transported by the circulation or circulatory system from the hormone producing glands to all parts of the body. They are circulated by the blood. The next is regulation of pH by the means of buffer and also regulation of temperature. Now, this circulation helps in regulation of pH by the means of buffer. Now, we have seen that the blood also acts as a buffer to maintain the pH level in the body. So, it regulates the pH. It acts as a buffer, and it regulates the temperature. As we know, along with all the nutrients, all the respiratory gases, the blood also transports heat in the body. So, it regulates the temperature of the body. Then distribution of water. The circulation helps in distribution of water. Water is distributed to all the parts of the body by the blood. Prevention of diseases by producing antibodies and antitoxins. Now we know the blood contains different components, that is RBCs, WBCs, platelets, blood plasma, isn't it? So WBCs which are present inside the blood, those WBCs, they produce the antibodies and antitoxins, and these antibodies and antitoxins are transported to all parts of the body, to each and every cell, in order to prevent them from diseases. The disposal of cell wreckage. Now whatever the debris is there in the cell or the waste products are there in the cell, they are disposed or they are taken from the cell to the excretory system for disposal by the blood, by the circulation. Next is the homeostasis, that is providing stable internal environment for the cells. Now this homeostasis, in this what happens, the internal physical and chemical conditions of the cell are maintained by the circulatory system, are maintained by the blood. So it here the homeostasis is done by the circulatory system or circulation. Next is it acts as a connective tissue. It acts as a connective tissue between the cells, between the body parts. Each and every cell, it acts as a connective tissue. It connects the cells with each other. As we have seen, the nutrients are transported from one cell to another. So how does these nutrients are transported? There is something in between them that transports it, right? So that is the blood. It acts as a connective tissue. It connects one cell from the another cell, one tissue from the another tissue, one organ from the another organ. So that's why it is called as the connective tissue. So this is the circulation in animals.